Hello and welcome back to the Case Learning Classroom. I'm Bill Kerr, an entrepreneurial management professor at Harvard Business School. In our previous lesson, we talked about how to make the most out of company culture in order to realize rapid growth. As the scale of the company increases, its organizational structure gradually becomes large and clumsy, creating problems if its leaders don't take action. Take Alvogen as an example. If one group in Iceland doesn't know what the other is doing in Seoul, they may mistakenly duplicate each other's work. Or a product line could plot an operational approach or sales strategy that runs counter to what some of the other lines are doing. During meetings, executives may find that they are rehashing the same issues again and again, but the problem still can't be resolved. These are all signs that the team is wasting time on the wrong things, significantly affecting the performance of the company. Many companies attack these problems by introducing a performance management system. For example, in 2015, Alvogen formalized a performance management system called the STAR Map, which helped to improve the company's performance. Performance management systems are a powerful set of tools. Unfortunately, though, not all companies use them well. Many companies simply equate performance management with performance appraisals. Or perhaps they set unrealistic performance goals, which may arouse resentment and hostility in employees. More rarely, loopholes in an assessment system can give rise to fraud and cheating, causing serious internal losses. As a result, performance management systems in a lot of companies have become a mere formality. That not only fails to improve the performance of the company, but even has a counterproductive effect. So how do you build a performance management system that works as Alvogen did? What's the right way to use it to empower your teams to remain entrepreneurial at scale? In this lesson, let's explore these questions in more detail. Author J.K. Rowling once said, "It's the choices that matter for ultimate success. It's not the ability of a person." To some extent, a performance management system is a tool that helps individuals and teams make the right choices because it clearly lays out a company's long-term vision and phase-by-phase goals. Employees can rely on the system to guide their daily work choices. Management can also observe the employee's performance and understand their progress through the system, thus identifying problems and making adjustments in time to make sure that each employee is doing their job. Management has continually in front of them a clear picture of the company's long-term strategies and task priorities. With these type of advantages, some startup founders, especially those who are familiar with how a big company needs to operate, may seek to implement performance management systems in their companies early. They want to put in place the structure for scale as early as possible to prepare it for rapid future expansion. But is this really the right approach? Let me first tell you a story about Zipcar, a shared car rental platform in the U.S. Soon after getting underway, this startup brought on board a president who came from a large company. The president began to create a baseline performance management system right away, including a lot of detailed tasks and procedures. But very quickly, founder and CEO Robin Chase recognized that his system was seriously out of sync for the speed of the rapidly changing company. By the time the president's proposed procedures hit Chase's desk, 25% were out of date and 50% were out of date by the following day. At the time, Zipcar employed fewer than 20 people, and a rigid structure system risks Zipcar's employees wasting a lot of time and energy dealing with the system itself, not being the agile and experimental team it needed as a startup. Seeing the mismatch, Chase moved quickly to fire the president, lest the organization start suffering from big company disease. Without this intervention, Zipcar would probably have disappeared from the car rental industry. A lot of companies have stories like Zipcar's. What they can teach us is this. Startups need to be wary of adopting the performance management systems required for scale too early, even though they know that they're going to need them in the future. Startup teams have to fight to win quickly and to get breakthroughs in the market before anyone else does. To do this, it's critical that they be agile, efficient, and sharp. But performance management systems risk snaring employees with rules and regulations, making them less efficient. This is particularly a challenge for teams who really need creative ideas, freedom, and imagination. These teams often chafe at performance management systems that develop a kind of stubborn defiance, exactly the opposite of what the performance management system wants to achieve. From reading the case material, you may remember this detail. When Alvogen was founded, it didn't have a designated HR department for a long time, let alone a codified performance management tool. The same thing we talked about just now went for Alvogen. At the start, Alvogen's team was very small, with only 6 core employees. They sat around a small table every day and discussed work with a lot of passion. All employees were clear about the big and small goals of the company, as well as the work progress in each other's plan. Information was highly transparent, and they made quick strategic decisions and were highly competitive. We never felt fear, just excitement, recalled Safa Gronfeld, who was in charge of organizational development. So when did Alvogen build its formal performance management systems? While Alvogen articulated the baseline principles of the STAR map from the founding as the key to their strategy and operation success, it wasn't until about 6 years after the company's founding that they built their detailed system. By that time, Alvogen had well over 1,000 employees spread across 35 countries. It was scaling so fast that the management team knew they needed a better system for staying coordinated with each other and being more consistent with their choices. Alvogen also wanted to remove the ability of a leader who wasn't keeping up from pointing the blame at others when the stockout happened or a deadline was missed. Here's a tip. As a startup, you can use a minimal viable plan, creating the smallest information system possible within the company for the needed tasks. For example, create a Google Doc or a Shimo Doc or some other shared log to document and synchronize all the work updates, remind colleagues about work goals and priorities, and initiate concerted project efforts. When you need to begin designing and developing a new policy, like expense reporting or vacation leave, make this a go-to starting point. This will help improve the young organization's work efficiencies without overburdening employees with red tape. Given that you can be too early, many CEOs rightfully ask, how can I judge the best time to introduce a performance management system into my company? To be honest, there's no perfect answer, but we can use this simple rule of thumb formula to help us. As a startup employee count grows by powers of 3, organizational changes tend to happen. For example, when a company's employee count increases from 3 to 9 and then from 9 to 27, its organizational appearance and operational approach change. It will then encounter new challenges as it grows from 27 to 81 employees. These inflection points require that the company assess whether its management methods need to adjust. And when your employee count increases to hundreds of people, that's when you should consider performance management systems. Of course, the powers of 3 are just a rough guide. You need to consider the region that you operate in, and industries vary extensively in their labor models. You can't just copy it mechanically. In addition, as your company grows, I suggest that you keep an eye out for some important signals. If you see that your employees' work starts to be contradictory and redundant, or that people seem to be always reinventing the wheel, or that some employees apparently cannot ever catch up with the organization's development goals and plans, then this may mean that your company needs to implement performance management systems. So if your company has grown big enough that you need to introduce performance management systems, where do you start? Do you purchase a system from the market, or like Alvogen, develop the systems on your own? In my opinion, these options both work. The critical factor is that you must engage the full team from day one. Why? Because the biggest value of any performance management system is to empower an organization and its employees. It has to be flexible enough to match how the employees work and also respect employees' values and goals. And perhaps more importantly, if the management team and its employees aren't bought into the system, they won't use it effectively, and perhaps even ignore the system entirely. This means that when building the system, managers first have to have conversations with their full teams to understand each employee's role and how each person goes about fulfilling it. Then, breaking down the company's overall goals level by level, managers can help employees to plan their work goals and development plans. Doing this will not only make the mechanisms of the performance management system more reasonable, it will also help employees better appreciate and accept such systems and see them as helpful tools rather than red tape. One critical reason why Alvogen's performance management system works so well is that Wesman and the senior management team spent a lot of time communicating with employees step by step, gaining their support and cooperation. It was on this basis that Alvogen developed a system, a visual star-shaped framework called STAR Map. STAR Map is composed of 5 core company goals: best portfolio, low cost, best quality, best customer service, and the best people. These 5 core elements are then measured by 48 key performance indicators, or KPIs. The STAR Map fully reflects Alvogen's company strategy and also guides employee performance goals. Employees and their managers refer to the STAR Map when they set their individual goals. And because 40% of their bonus depends upon completion of their STAR Map goals, the system encourages them to focus on their own responsibilities and improve their performance. Most leaders are reluctant to invite employees to participate in the design of these systems. They simply assign performance management systems on the employees from the top down. But then employees tend to see the systems as shackles and burdens imposed upon them and naturally resist, crippling the system from its inception. In my opinion, involving the whole team in its creation is the critical lever on which the performance system's success depends. Of course, even if your company has successfully established a set of performance management systems, leaders still need to devote enormous effort to cascade their goals and priorities planned out within the systems all the way down to the employees' everyday work. To ensure that performance management systems are effective, a successful CEO will do 2 things. First, designate a few senior leaders, usually between 2 and 5, and put them in charge of achieving the company's most critical goals. Google's co-founder, Larry Page, has emphasized how winning organizations are those who put more force behind fewer key arrows. Second, on a monthly or quarterly basis, track progress and have check-in conversations with employees in order to measure the status of the performance goals in real time. How did Alvogen do this? Besides the STAR Map, the company also prepared a visual interface called the dashboard. The dashboard was an online platform specifically used to track the organization's performance in terms of the STAR Map's 5 core elements and the 48 KPIs. Alvogen's founder Robert Wesman once said, "People need to spend time on the right things. It's not enough for Alvogen employees to be busy. They need to be directing their efforts to having the most possible impact on the KPIs. The dashboard focuses on the KPIs every day, every hour." Data stewards throughout Alvogen continually update the data on the dashboard, and employees have access to most of the information on the dashboard at any time, even by their phone. And Alvogen's leaders around the world hold weekly phone meetings to go through the data on the dashboard in order to catch and correct mistakes in rapid and a clear way. Leaders know exactly where the organization is, use the dashboard to redirect resources and provide aid when needed, and avoid the finger pointing if a ball gets dropped. Here's your challenge question for this lesson. Does the company you work at use any performance management systems? If someone like Wesman takes over your company, how would they change those systems? Why?